I took a sheriff job in a little town called Normal, Minnesota.
Reports two assholes screaming at each other.
All right, separate!
People seem friendly enough.
There's a certain kind of story that begins not with chaos, but with a quiet promise, the kind that feels almost too ordinary to matter. And that's exactly where Normal 2026 plants its feet before it pulls everything out from under you. The film opens on the idea of escape, not the loud, explosive kind, but the slow, deliberate retreat of a man who has seen enough of the world to know that peace is something you don't find, it's something you try to build. Ulysses, played by Bob Odenkirk, isn't introduced as a hero, not in the conventional sense. He's not surrounded by spectacle or danger when we meet him. Instead, there's a subtle weight to his presence, a quiet tension that suggests a history he's trying to outrun. He moves to a place called Normal, Minnesota, a town whose very name feels like a promise, like a contract that says life here will be simple, predictable, safe. But stories built on promises like that rarely stay intact, and the irony of the name Normal becomes clear almost immediately, not through anything overt, but through the smallest cracks in the surface. The film, under the direction of Ben Wheatley, leans heavily into atmosphere early on, allowing the audience to settle into the rhythm of the town before disrupting it. Wheatley, known for his work on films like Free Fire and High Rise, has a distinct ability to turn contained spaces into pressure cookers, and here he applies that same sensibility to an entire town. Normal isn't just a setting, it's a carefully constructed illusion, one that feels almost too quiet, too still, like something is being held back beneath the surface. Ulysses himself is a fascinating contradiction, a man who wants to disappear but carries himself like someone who's spent a lifetime being impossible to ignore. There's a subtlety in Odenkirk's performance that defines the character, a sense that every decision he makes is calculated, every word measured. It's a role that builds on the physical intensity he showcased in action-heavy performances before, but here it's layered with something deeper, something more introspective. Ulysses isn't chasing redemption in the traditional sense, he's chasing silence, a break from whatever life he left behind. But silence in a place like this doesn't come easy. The narrative begins to shift when the town reveals its first real secret, and it doesn't come in the form of a dramatic reveal or a sudden explosion of violence. Instead, it creeps in slowly, through inconsistencies, through moments that don't quite add up. A conversation overheard, a face that lingers just a little too long, a transaction that feels off in a way that's hard to define. The screenplay, written by Derek Kolstad, the mind behind the John Wick universe, thrives on this kind of tension. Kolstad understands how to build a world where danger isn't always visible, where it exists in the margins, waiting for the right moment to step into the light. As Ulysses begins to notice these fractures, the film shifts gears almost imperceptibly, transitioning from a quiet character study into something far more volatile. The revelation that Normal is entangled in an international criminal conspiracy doesn't arrive all at once. It unfolds piece by piece, each layer exposing something darker than the last. What began as suspicion turns into certainty, and that certainty forces Ulysses into a position he was trying to avoid. The life he came here to escape finds him again, not because he went looking for it, but because it was always there, waiting. Supporting performances play a crucial role in shaping the world around Ulysses, particularly from Lena, Headey, whose presence adds a layer of unpredictability to the narrative.
Her character operates in that grey space between ally and adversary, never fully revealing her intentions, and that ambiguity becomes one of the film's most compelling elements. Headey brings a controlled intensity to the role, the kind that suggests she's always thinking several steps ahead, even when she appears calm. Her interactions with Ulysses are charged with tension, not just because of what's happening in the moment, but because of what's left unsaid. Then there's Henry Winkler, whose involvement adds an unexpected dimension to the story. Known for roles that often lean into warmth and familiarity, Winkler's presence here feels almost disarming, and that's precisely what makes it effective. The film uses that expectation to its advantage, allowing his character to exist in a space where the audience is never entirely sure what to believe. It's a performance that plays with perception, challenging assumptions, and adding depth to the narrative in ways that aren't immediately obvious. As the conspiracy at the heart of the story begins to take shape, the scale of the film expands, but it never loses its focus on the personal stakes. This isn't just about stopping a criminal operation, it's about survival, about understanding who can be trusted and who can't, about navigating a world where every move could be the wrong one. The action, when it arrives, feels earned, not just because of the build-up, but because of how it's integrated into the story. Wheatley's direction ensures that every sequence carries weight, that it's not just about spectacle, but about consequence.
The choreography of the action sequences reflects Kolstad's influence, blending precision with brutality in a way that feels both grounded and intense. There's a tactile quality to the violence, a sense that every hit, every movement matters. Ulysses doesn't move like an invincible hero. He moves like someone who knows exactly what he's capable of and exactly what's at stake if he fails. That grounded approach makes the escalation of the conflict feel real, making each confrontation more than just a visual set piece. What sets the film apart, however, is its ability to balance that intensity with moments of stillness, moments where the story pulls back just enough to let the characters breathe. These quieter scenes are where the emotional core of the film truly comes into focus, where Ulysses' internal struggle becomes as important as the external conflict. There's a sense of inevitability that runs through the narrative, a feeling that no matter how much he tries to avoid it, he's being pulled back into a life he can't escape. The setting of Normal itself evolves alongside the story, transforming from a place of refuge into something far more complex. The town becomes a character in its own right, its streets and buildings taking on new meaning as the truth is revealed. What once felt safe begins to feel claustrophobic, every corner potentially hiding something dangerous. That shift in perception is handled with precision, allowing the audience to experience the same growing unease as Ulysses. Production-wise, the film benefits from the backing of Mark Proviciero and distribution through Magnolia Pictures, both of which contribute to its polished yet distinctive feel. There's a confidence in how the story is presented, a willingness to let it unfold at its own pace without rushing to meet expectations. That patience pays off, allowing the tension to build naturally, making the eventual payoff all the more impactful. As the narrative approaches its climax, the various threads of the conspiracy begin to converge, revealing a network that's far more intricate than it initially appeared. The stakes escalate not just in terms of scale, but in terms of personal cost. Ulysses is forced to confront not just the people behind the operation, but the reality of who he is and what he's capable of.
It's a confrontation that goes beyond physical conflict, delving into questions of identity, of whether a person can truly leave their past behind. The film's release on April 17, 2026, positions it within a landscape of action thrillers that often prioritize scale over substance. But Normal takes a different approach. It's not trying to outdo others in terms of spectacle. It's trying to tell a story that feels grounded, that resonates on a character level, while still delivering the intensity audiences expect. That balance is difficult to achieve, but here it feels deliberate, carefully constructed. By the time the story reaches its conclusion, there's a sense that the journey has been as much about understanding Ulysses as it has been about unraveling the conspiracy. The resolution doesn't rely solely on action. It relies on the choices he makes, the path he decides to take. It's a conclusion that feels earned, not because it ties everything up neatly, but because it stays true to the tone and themes established throughout the film. In the end, what Normal 2026 delivers is more than just an action thriller. It's a story about the illusion of escape, about the idea that no matter how far you go, certain parts of you remain. It's about the tension between who we are and who we want to be, and the lengths we'll go to reconcile the two. Through its layered narrative, strong performances, and carefully crafted atmosphere, it creates a world that feels both familiar and unsettling, a place where nothing is quite as simple as it seems, and where the search for a normal life becomes something far more complicated than anyone could have anticipated.